be unmanipulatable too. To the lady who messaged me saying that she finally found me back on YouTube, I know, I'm shadow banned. I might just become unavailable to viewers at any given time. Our video channelings are all on our website, sharonaandivo.weebly.com, in text format on the blog usually. I'm also putting up some of our older videos on the site as well in video format. With censorship becoming as acute as it is now, you might want to consider visiting people's websites more for your information than you previously did. As for ours, there's a few books worth of information on there, so it's worth a look. As for the links on my website, all of the ones I put up there work. The only page that's not linked is the Commander's page, and I'll finish that in my good time. Thanks for your message. Ivo wants to discuss more on this, so we'll do a second video on this together. He says it's important to know all of this information. One thing that I want to stress is that you have to study where you are in relationship to others. When we go to work, we automatically know the boss holds all the power. This is a power over others' relationship, and that old system will either quickly or slowly melt away as people become more personally empowered and demand to be heard and respected. I believe that making American great again is going to have its trials and tribulations as people begin to wake up to how dominated and controlled they are. They'll become like I was when I was younger, learning to become very aware of it in relationships and learning to deal with it. Ivo, this is how to tell when someone is truly of service, my love, or whether they are out to dominate the transaction and reduce you to a purchasing opportunity. Are they trying to sell you something, or are they truly trying to aid you in your quest? Would they send you to their competitor if it aided you in your objective? Me, I have. I've sent people to other channelers because they channel people who I don't normally, like Jesus. Her name is Tina Louise Spalding, by the way, and she's fully awake too. When you don't let your income decide your behavior, you're free to do as you want. As soon as you make an earning opportunity out of your light work, you are more limited in the help you can offer. Yeah, I wish I was more energy sensitive when it came to buying that vacuum cleaner. I had to learn how to understand manipulative people, and at the time, it was hit or miss. I remember another time, my friend gave out my unlisted phone number to a sales lady that wanted to sell me housewares. She came over and tried every tactic in the book to sell me either pots and pans, silverware, or a set of expensive plates. She mentioned that she knew my father and loved his paintings. She felt that she could manipulate me by flattering my father's work. I know my father's paintings are master level, they truly are. I'm stating a fact, not bragging, but as for my father being the stand-up guy she claimed him to be, I silently shut my mouth but realized she either didn't know him like I did or she was lying. I ended up spending a couple of hours in my cold kitchen toying with her as she tried to sell me the stuff and then get the phone numbers of my friends to add to her list. That I refused. She never sold me anything. It was a good exercise. She also said that she was sure that in 6 months I'd be married, and obviously she's not much of a psychic because I never got married. When people use flattering tactics like this on you, beware, they're trying to get around your boundaries, folks. This lady positioned herself at the top of us, and was looking down at me, as if I needed her flattery to bolster my self-esteem. People will try to play on your low sense of self-worth, so like I said in the other video, don't have one. Value and respect yourself, know you are worthy and they can't touch you. People who flatter you have agendas. I get this all the time. They either think themselves unworthy of you or you unworthy of them. I've had many other people approach me from a position of inferiority. They Hollywood me, putting me high above them and then treat me like a god. I'm not. I'm an earthling of alien consciousness who had a rude awakening being born on this planet. I learned a lot. I'm not the only one. Those who see themselves as my equal and refuse to control or manipulate me are my friends. I have one sweet lady friend in New York State who knows her worth and stands in her power. We relate as equals. People manipulate because they fear you'll say no, so they do everything they can to prevent your using that word. Use it anyway. Read between the lines, again, thanks mom, to understand what they want and either force them to ask in a way you can answer yes or no to, or just say no and walk away. Are you saying that you want me to drive you to the store for a cheesecake? If they say, well, I wasn't saying that exactly, but it's just that I'm really feeling like I want a piece. Oh, so you want me to drive you to the store to get cheesecake? Well, I'm really wanting some. Okay, so do you want me to drive you to the store to get a cheesecake? Yes or no? Well. Yeah. Okay, fine, let's go then. People who manipulate are not direct. Life's too short, folks. They are hiding something like overwhelming shame at having to ask, the fear of being judged, or the fear you'll say no. I've had people talk to me, and because I very easily read between the lines, I say no to the actual request they have instead of what they're saying to me. Another rule to remember is that everyone has an agenda. It's normal. It's natural. They don't approach you without some kind of expectation. Usually the expectation is one of getting something, which is too bad. Maybe people should start having an agenda of being able to give something before they try to get something, but I realize so many people are withholding generosity out of fear of being taken advantage of. When you fear exploitation, you don't have good boundaries. You need to work on your boundaries to the point that you can give to others and deal well with exploiters. Do you think it's a coincidence that these people have taken on the reptilian way of thinking, that others are there to exploit? No, obviously one reason it's been implemented on this planet is so people will stop being of service to others. You can't let that stop you. Becoming of service to others is an early part of the ascension process and of realizing who you really are. Ivo, I wish to also point out that on Earth people play roles. When you meet a businessman or woman, they offer you their business card, and as you read it, they are giving you a dialogue on what they do for a living. You will automatically make assumptions about them based on what they tell you. This is a first impression, but it is wise to let things play out in time so that you can adjust your impression of them. You also have the habit of having friends or family recommend service providers to you, and you go on others' opinions. Do you think this is wise? It saves time. For example, however, is your friend or relative going to take responsibility for any poor work done? Me, I remember my parents got their house sided with aluminum siding, yeah, and then later on my mother was complaining about her tiredness and she felt it had something to do with aluminum. She thought it was poisoning her and making her sick, but she never equated it with the siding on the house. I see later houses changed to vinyl siding, which is still a poisonous composite, but it's probably not a heavy metal anyway. Ivo, my dear, you are waking up. Me, lol, read Ashtar's book. What he says about our industry is mind-boggling. Obviously, they got this man through a recommendation from someone, perhaps even one of the neighbors, and when he was siding the house, he used to talk to me when I was going to school. I was in grade 7 or 8 and about 13 or 14 years old, and I could sense he had sexual feelings towards me. Ugh. Sicko. Of course, with my parents, if anything had happened, it would have been my fault, because they so often disregarded their responsibility to their children. You don't think that in hiring a guy to do the siding for your house, that he'll be eyeballing your daughters, but that just goes to show. We hire people to work for us with no prior knowledge of who they are, and we have to because we're not empathic or psychic, yet, but once we are, these people will be out of a job. We won't have to depend on a business card and a 30-second monologue to decide whether to let someone into our lives or not, and to expose our children to potential perverts either, for that matter. Ivo, correct. Being telepathic has its advantages. Sensing energy has its advantages. Me, I know. There are people I come across and I get a big, whoa. Stay away from them. And I do. Ivo, so you see the potential this mass awakening has for the planet? Me, yes. Ivo, more people reading the intentions of others and sensing their integrity level. You will not even have to rely upon verbal communication in order to understand the integrity of the person you are dealing with, because integrity can be verbally faked. Me, well, what we're saying here, Ivo, is that what's considered normal communication is also very telling and can be a great indicator of who you're dealing with. It's not that hard once you start to watch for how people position you in relationships and how they try to manipulate your self-esteem in order to get their way with you. Which reminds me of all the attempts men have made in bars to get me to go home with them. Speaking of manipulating your self-esteem, in my opinion, this whole bar scene is just about sexual energy vampirism, which is probably the most sought-after energy the human can emit besides life energy. Ivo, correct. To take the energy of the creative principle and to misdirect it to suit one's personal needs, to steal it, in other words. Me, people, men and women, you must realize that you are an energetic being of light connected to the God source, and this energy is not to be used unwisely. We all are on a learning curve, but do your best. Ivo, you must know your value, and you must know your worth as in God's eyes. But you must also know your limits. This is another thing you must base your boundaries upon. It goes without saying that life on earth is a test of your limits. It is a test of your beliefs which can further limit you. Life is about expanding your limits to align with the godly being that you are, and recognizing what restrictions having a physical body can put on them. When you understand that those in power now are poisoning you in order to make you ill and to limit your bodies, you will take better care of them. Me, speaking of which, I think I'll end this here. Hopefully we've imparted more useful information to people to help empower them in this power over others system. When the people are empowered, the system will change to reflect that. Ivo, indeed it will. Very well, my love. We will discuss this again soon.